Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite resident experts. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May. She is a clinical, organizational, and forensic trained psychologist. She's going to talk with us this evening about resiliency, especially in a time of pandemic. Good evening, Dr. Angie. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good evening, Kim. I'm happy to be here always. I always love spending some time with you.
I'm so happy that you're here because ever since we were talking about this topic, I have been so excited to talk about this. So,
Excellent.
2020, as my granny would say, was a whopper of a year. It was a whopper, like literally. Everything that we said that was on the bingo card, none of that stuff came up, but everything else came up.
Right. So,
everything. We had COVID, we had the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so many others. And we are still coming across video of young teenage boys being manhandled by police and assaulted, and coming to find out that there was no reason or probable cause for them to. The latest, of course, is the young man in Texas who was walking home in the snow with just a t-shirt on, and someone thought that he was doing something wrong simply because he had on a t-shirt. Now here we are, fast forward to 2021. We are still in the midst of COVID. However, on January 6th, something historic happened to our country. Our people's house was invaded by rioters and people who were very angry about how they were treated. Here we are in February. It's Black History Month. We have crossed the threshold of 500,000 people who have died from COVID. 500,000 families in this country have been impacted, have not been able to grieve in the normal ways that we would normally grieve or express themselves or connect with others. Incidences of depression and anxiety are increasing. Virtual school is taking its toll on many parents, and I am one of them. It is a hard task to teach your kids in home while teachers are trying to instruct and you're trying to keep everybody on task, along with the increase in housework in terms of laundry. Food has to be prepared because everyone's at home, and many women have complained that they are doing the lion's share of the work. And so we see the videos, we have all these things that we're responsible for. People around us are dying. It has gotten to a point for me, and I will be very honest, that every time I open Facebook, I cringe because I'm wondering, who am I going to see today who has died? I know that in January, there were 3 people that passed back to back. And I just remember going, I don't want to open up Facebook today to see, who's next. And so with all of that and the pressures on us as American citizens and also as Black American citizens, because we have our own unique issues and problems in this country. And it's Black History Month, and our story has not been completely told. We have bits and pieces of it. And so there are some things that we talk about to be proud of. There are other things that we're not necessarily proud of because it was a dark time in our life, specifically around slavery. But thinking about all of that in a big capsule, first of all, define for us what resilience means. And then as African Americans in the current state that we're in, how should we be viewing resiliency in our own lives?
Okay, well, that's a lot. but we've all got a lot, on our plates. Yes, for sure. Resilience, when I teach courses, as a college professor or whatever, or anything I'm teaching actually, I always like to start with formal definitions and everything. So your viewers, any one of us can look up, the formal definition of what resilience really means. But I think in a nutshell, we might all agree that it means to bounce back. To get up, all those little sayings that people say, if you fall off the horse, you get back on the horse, that idea of being able to reach down deep inside or reach for some strength, some motivation, something that is anchor enough for us to keep going. That idea of being able to continue moving, hopefully moving forward. So that's basically what resilience means. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean like all those things and more that you named that has been thrown at us as a people, as Americans, particularly in like we all say this past year. It's not that those things won't be thrown at us, but it's how we come through. And our story as Black people is nothing if not a story of resilience. So that's I would say what it is in like, just common lay language, so to speak. What was the second part of your question?
How should we apply it to our lives? How should we view it? Because some people, I will tell you, will say, I'm tired. I'm tired of being strong. I feel like I'm breaking down. And I know we like to say those things, but in the shadow of what resiliency is, can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for us?
Absolutely. You just named it. You just named it. A big part of it, an important part of it. When I come on your show, there's been several times when you brought that up, that concept, particularly of Black women, of what being a strong Black woman really means, the image of it, which has traditionally meant that we just keep going no matter what, and that nothing's going to break us down, which has been somewhat or largely necessary in order to help our people continue to move forward, ourselves, our families, et cetera. But just as you have often pointed out also, there is a toll that takes. And it damages, if you damage that backbone of the community, then you damage the community. So definitely it takes its toll to walk through your life with that concept of ourselves. Like I say, particularly as Black women, but as Americans, that nothing can break us down. So what you just said is so key, I would say, to resilience, like one of the number one things, and that is to be able to give ourselves permission to not only say I'm tired, which can take a lot, it can feel like you're giving in, but to say I'm tired, to acknowledge you're tired, and to go ahead and feel tired. Let that feel. That's so important for resilience, because if you have a battery that's run down and run out of juice, you need time to charge that battery. Does that mean that the battery is weak? It can be the strongest battery in the world, but it still needs time for charging. So the fact that you even put it right that way, I think is a perfect starting point for what true resilience and the ability to bounce back and keep going looks like. We have to step back and carve out time for rest, for reflection, for letting down, and all of the things that may look like. Take a nap, unplug, as they say, binge watch a couple of shows, get into your favorite book or a chapter of it. Or if you don't have time for a chapter, read a half a chapter. Any of those things that looks like recharging, but to admit to ourselves first, and then to be able to tell the people around us, the family that we're taking care of, even the kids. And I know in the world of Zooming, we're Zooming everything. I was saying to someone last evening, as a matter of fact, that, or was it today? I think it was today, earlier today. I was saying to someone that I know a lot of people are saying they're zoomed out, which I understand, Zoom, everything. I totally understand that. But I would say that I have to admit, I'm rather enjoying the quirky opportunity to see, the behind the scenes of folks' lives, because it humanizes us.
Yeah.
When you're watching your favorite anchor and the cat walks or the dog, all those little things, because it reminds us that we're all, in this, together, all doing this. But I mentioned that because not just because that's another important aspect of resilience, to remember that others are, we're kind of going through this together. That can help us not feel so isolated, particularly because we have needed to isolate. That helps us feel a little less isolated. But I mentioned that because I'm teaching a Black experience class through my company with my sister. So I created a Black experience class for this month of Black history, and it's once a week, and it's on Zoom. And my student, she's a busy mom. She's a professional. Outside of the home, she's working, and she's also a busy mom and all that. And so she said at the beginning of the class, she's like, "Oh, I admit I have to ask, in advance, can we cut it off just a little short today, because her day had been so busy. She spent no time with her kids, like no time. I'm sure you know what that's like, and all the moms and dads out there." And I said, "Oh, no problem. We can cut it a little short, today." And so, she had to take these yelling breaks. She said, "Excuse me a moment. Turn the oven off." It was so cute because one of her little kids, one of her boys came in, and he wanted mom's attention and everything. And I love the way she said it. She said, "Let's just give me just give me 20 minutes for a conversation. Mom needs just 20 minutes." And then she said, "Just go and get your life together." Or like he was a colleague, he's just this little cute kid. I was just like, go get your life together for 20 minutes. And it's just adorable. But even, asking some things of our kids that, and which teaches them empathy too. Don't feel that you are letting them down if you say, "Mommy needs 10 minutes. Or give mom, go get." You may not say, "Go get your," to your 5-year-old, "Go get your life together." It's so cute.
I have said that. I can't lie. My son, my youngest, I'm like, "Get your life. I just need 20 minutes. I'm gonna close the door and just be quiet for a minute."
You got to do, yes.
And he will clock watch it and come back in 20 minutes. And I'm just like, I know my 20 minutes is up, and I know I said it. So, okay, let's pull it together. Come on.
Exactly. But you do that. And it like you say, it's necessary, to ask, even though we're taking care of them, help mommy out a little bit here, take a few minutes. And that's important. It's important learning. It's important for, again, resilience, recharge those batteries. So yeah, that's step number one, admitting to ourselves that we're tired. It does, it does throw out that idea that it means that you're not strong. That is a strength. It takes a lot to admit that. It takes taking responsibility for ourselves and for all those we're taking care of, to say, "You know what, I need to put this burden down that I'm carrying for a few minutes, rest it." So that is a strength, admitting it to ourselves first and foremost, and then finding those ways to let the people around us know, like you said, go get your life. I need 25 minutes, 15, whatever. Absolutely. And something else I would say too is creating like pockets of those. Some days there are days it's just not possible.
Yeah,
it's just how we are. We know it's just morning to night, and you fall in bed. But where you can, take 10 minutes here. You literally, as we have experienced, that you may literally not have 20 minutes that you can carve, but you might be able to do 8 or 5, or so do a couple of those, or plug in, where you can. So that's important. That's important. Yeah. Necessary.
It is. So now I want to go back to what we were talking about for Americans as a whole. because many of us, no matter who you are, whatever your ethnicity is, you are politicked out. And it just seems like it's ongoing. We just came off of the impeachment hearings, and it was a rehash of everything. And I don't know if you watched it. I'm a wonk, so I like to sit and watch stuff like that.
News junk,
But
absolutely. You know,
I am.
all of that. Yeah.
When I was watching them lay out the case and I got to see the security footage, I was like, oh, we didn't see that. That gives a whole new layer. Wait a minute.
Absolutely.
And for me, it proves some things that I already thought, however, wasn't able to prove, because I was like, well, this would seem like, you know, how you want to connect the dots, but you're like, but there's a piece missing. And then you saw the missing pieces and you were like, oh, wait, this is what I thought it was.
Yes.
And so a lot of people are tired. They are fed up. You go on Facebook, people are still arguing. You go on any place on social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, there are political discussions happening and
Yes,
people
that's
are
true.
angry. So then I get the people who will put up a happy feel good story and say, this is to spread love on social media.
They're
And you
trying.
can't, they're absolutely trying. But then at a certain point, I'm like, but do you feel as if that is your role now? And I understand that because we're all on social media, everybody sort of feels like, well, I should pass on something that's happy, which is great. However, I always tell people, sometimes we just need to turn it off
Oh,
so that it
absolutely.
doesn't bring you down. Because there were times when literally I would not go on Facebook. I'm like, nope, no Facebook, no Twitter, no
Yeah.
social media unless it's for work. But outside
Mhm.
of that, no. So, what would you tell people who are struggling with resilience in terms of social media overload,
Mhm.
politics overload, and just being able to talk to your fellow American? Because it seems like now it's much more difficult because
Yeah.
of differing opinions.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't just seem like it has become more difficult in a lot of ways, sadly, as a result of the past 4 years and all that's going on, and the negativity, etc. Um, I'll give you an example. You know, one of the things, it's not a digression, but I was gonna say, I'll tell you a little story. My you know, I say I come from a family of writers. You know, my dad wrote poetry, my mom was a fantastic writer, and my and all of that. Um, of my mom's many talents, she's a fantastic teacher and as well as musician, and all that. Her three kids, I don't think we really knew this or thought of her as a storyteller like that. But people, you know, who were around her, talk about, like, she was an amazing storyteller. Like, as she told stories verbally, like the characters would come to life, kind of thing. So I just thought about mom. I said, I'll tell you a story. I'm gonna share a story. Right to your point about that, and your question, and that is, one of the things that I have found that's been really helpful, when conversing with people, is I don't do it across the board. I don't do it all the time. Actually, I don't do it that often, but I will, if I feel led to, I will dip into a conversation a little bit, where people are putting stuff out there, so to speak. And for the most part, if I address it with kindness and facts, like those two tools, kindness, facts, and understanding, like those three tools. So the story I was going to tell as an example is, one example of that is, I have an old friend from like elementary school. You know, you reconnect on Facebook. I haven't seen her in years or whatever. And she has, you know, a bunch of friends who are just, how shall we put it? There are a bunch of folks who are like, they are largely Republican voters, and you know, buy into some of the negative, you know, et cetera. So it showed up on my news feed, I think, or something, that in her conversation that she was having on her Facebook page. It was something she had stated. And I disagreed with it, but the way that I did it, which is my usual approach, is I bring all this love first. And I, of course, as a psychologist, and we were just working with people, you learn that I like to start with the common ground. So, right. One of the, and not that it's all easy, but one of the easiest ways to soften up that soil is to not come at a person with, well, no, that's not right, because then you're off to the races, because it is viewed and can feel combative, and you're fighting against me, and now I'm going to fight back harder and dig in it. So I pretty much always start with, I understand your point, or I can understand why you might feel that way, or another way that you might consider looking at it is, something very kind of like an offer, like, we'll try this and see. So that is one thing. And it makes a big difference, because I'm not approaching them in a way that they expect. So I'm not punching back and saying, no, I'm saying, well, I can see why you might see that, but, and then the second thing is put it all on facts. So from this article that I read by a researcher, they said that blah, 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 blah. Or, another way to look at it, or at least I know it's worked for me when I feel frustrated like that. So you're making that common ground, is when I look into blah, 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 I found, and this is what they said from the historically, and facts, like, so for example, in 1982, when such and such happened, this happened as a response. When I put chock full of, and I always research, like I'll see something, and then I've become a real quick researcher. So I like look up a couple of things. 1917 and 1945. So in 1945, according to blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So because I'm giving data, facts, dates, and all of that, it takes me out of it more, where it's not opinion. Well, that's what you think. Well, that's what you think. Well, that's what you think, and with kindness and all that. So usually that most of the time, unless it's somebody that's just there to do nothing but fight, most of the time, that gets, sometimes that gets absolute crickets, which can be a good thing, because we don't have a fight, we're not coming in, and we had to think about something. Oftentimes, with my particular friend, the story I was going to say, she had posted something, I can't remember what it was, and I responded in a similar manner, and I was saying, but from my experience, blah, 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 and this is what I found out. And of course, well, because we have a relationship, her response was, it's not that she agreed with me or anything. She just said, I really respect your view, your point of view, love you. Okay, I received that, wonderful. I laid out, but her friends, whom I don't know, it was very, very interesting, because they know her, respect her, and she openly showed respect and love for me. One of her friends responded with, I can really understand, or I really respect your view as well. And yes, I want to see positive, blah, blah, blah. But how can we find that when, blah, blah, blah. And then it became a conversation with this stranger. Mm-hmm. And so it had something to do, I think it was immigration policy or something about the new administration. That were some suppositions. Okay. They were kind of, assuming, I believe this was the context. They're just going to throw open the borders and just let everybody just walk in, which is part of the misnomer. That's one of the stereotypes out there about a Democratic administration. Mm-hmm. And so I just answered her with, but how can we, blah, blah. I said, well, I totally understand how you'd feel. I'd feel the same way if they were just coming in and no one has to follow any rules. And that's not fair to those of us who pay taxes. But actually, according to the legislation and the way that it's written, what they're saying is,
there you go.
So that those kinds of things. And then, of course, you always get those who are just trying to troll and not going to hear anything, But like I said, I try to pick my spots and give factual information with love, and I hope this helps as a sign off, as opposed to that's not how it is. So, those things do seem to. So yeah. So that, I mean, that's one way. If you're gonna engage, or if you feel that's one way. Another way is to your question, it's healthy just to put the thing down anyway. Like we all should be doing more of that anyway. Put the phone down, put the screen down, be it social media or otherwise, for an hour or a couple hours or two, or whatever it is. Put it down and give yourself a time frame. Leave it alone. Pick up a book, read the newspaper, whatever. Another thing, I will say this too, because I do kind of preach balance a little bit. And what I mean by that is because there can be so much negative, and you're absolutely right, is particularly in this day and age. If you are like a lot of I've been asked to join, groups, either on Facebook, for example. So the groups that I have agreed to join are, they're supporting each other in lots of different things, in business, or are you an entrepreneur, or I'm newly Greek, so supporting, helping the community if you're Alpha Kappa Alpha. So there is not all of this happening. It doesn't mean politics may be avoided, but maybe talked about in a way that, well, how can I help with blah, blah. So for myself, I don't run into a lot of that. And I believe that's because I've cultivated friendships on social media, as I have in life, with like-minded, and I don't mean like-minded that they have to agree with everything I think, but like-minded in terms of we don't put each other down.
Right.
We don't attack folks. We try to, so I think the balance is take some time away from it, put the thing down. When you are on it, maybe if you miss, I think for a lot of people, it has filled some void because we have to be separated or have had to be. So if you are on it for social reasons or whatever, think in terms of maybe finding a group that is positive or does things that you're interested in doing. Maybe, join a knitting group on, and they share what they're working on, and particularly those groups that are moderated by people who, set those rules. Okay, we don't put each other down here. We support each other, so that way you can more likely guarantee, or it's more likely you'll have those positive interactions even when on social media, as opposed to just randomly being out there and you just run into some of everybody and you may be punched back sometimes. So that's a way to maybe kind of navigate a little. So some things to think about.
And just to piggyback on everything that you said, one of the things I always tell people, I said, everything that you see on Facebook, you're not invited to. You don't have to respond to. Because a lot of times that's what will happen. Somebody will put out a post because they want to argue, or they want to be controversial, or they are
excellent point.
To their page.
That's
and so
right.
Sometimes when I see stuff, I'm like, nope, keep on going. Not today, devil. Nope, not today.
Exactly. Yes. I'm so glad you said that. Yes. And that takes discipline.
Yes, it does. It does. For a while, I struggled with it. I was like, well, I can't let that get away. And I had to think about, well, what am I invested in? Because then you're going back to check the post to see did they respond, and then they finally do respond, and then they say something ugly and you get mad. And I remember I would have days where I would just be upset, and I'm like, it's a beautiful day. Why am I don't even know who this person is, because they commented on someone that I know on their page. I don't know who you are, and they're calling me all kinds of bad names, and I'm trying to defend a point that I didn't have to make in the first place.
Right.
It had nothing to do with me. It was this person's point. You can like it and move on. I personally am in a bunch of gardening groups that are on Facebook. And so we share plants and gardening tips. There are some people in the South who are gardening and have their tomatoes and lemons out already. And us in the North, we're all jealous because we're like, oh, wait, it's still snow on the ground. We can't. So we're starting our container gardens in our houses. And so people are doing all kinds of creative things. And then a bunch of writing groups where we talk about writing and characters all days, especially sci-fi. So there is much more to social media than just the negativity, but you got to figure out where you need to go, and that takes some looking.
Oh, and one other thing too, I was going to say, I love that. I mean, exactly. I was just talking about this and writing about it as well. And that is a lot of people don't necessarily, unless they took research courses, in college or whatever, a lot of times people don't know that they don't know how to differentiate between news.
Yes.
And, and so they're getting their news from Facebook, social media, et cetera, and how to distinguish. So for those people who, like us, like we're news junkies and we want to see what's going on, blah, 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 you can pick up an old-fashioned newspaper, like we did in the prehistoric days. Way back. When that dinosaur used to deliver it.
Wait, when the dinosaur would be walking down the street and you would be riding your bike and you had to get over to the side so the dinosaur could go so you could continue to ride your bike to your friend's house?
I remember, because they were loud, those dinosaurs.
They sure were. And when the street lights come on, sometimes they will walk by and you'd be like, oh, dang, we got to go in the house because we got to
go in the house. Street lights are on. I don't even see, you remember.
I do.
I mean, you can be engaged in, if you are like, want to keep up with it, you can engage in it, talk about it with people who you enjoy a healthy debate with. And it's exactly like you said, and cultivate the discipline of not diving in, because it can be hard at first, just like you said. One of the things I say to myself, I try to pray about, whether I should, but often I don't. If I do occasionally, like I said, usually it's just like fact, all, with all love, and it's like, but one of the things I tell myself is, you know what, somebody out there is correcting them. Somebody's offering the other point of view. If I don't, it's okay. I don't have to, they'll hear it from, they'll get, so that helps. That helped me pull away a little bit, like, okay, it doesn't have to always be me.
So, exactly. I was talking to my boys and I was trying to get them to understand, because my oldest son, who's 12, said, yeah, mommy, life was hard for you. You didn't have an iPhone. You didn't have the internet. I said, yeah, baby. I said, we had to go to the library and we had to go through the card catalog and actually look up on little cards to find information. He said, mommy, that's just rough. I said, yeah. And when our friends, we wanted to see who was where, guess what? We had to go outside and get on our bike or walk down the street. He was like, yeah, mommy, we just text each other. I said, I know, y'all so spoiled. Y'all don't know what to do.
Now, I'm gonna ask you next time. I want you got to share the positives of those times, right? We got more fresh air. We got to play and have fun. We had assigned playtime. We would go out and play.
Yes. Yeah.
Go out and play. Yeah. Go out and play.
My parents would kick us out in the morning. We'd have breakfast. My mom would call me in from lunch. When she stepped out on that porch and called my name, you better come, and she better be able to come. And she
there's no searching for you.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. My mother never stepped off, and if she had to step off that porch, my day was over, because I was
a lot of things were over.
Right. But it was funny because if I saw my mom, then everybody else's mom was on the porch too. So we all knew. It's like, Kim, your mom's on the porch. Oh, I gotta go. Sorry.
That's right. That's right.
And you went and you ate lunch. And you did whatever while you ate lunch, watched TV, read a book, whatever. And then you were back outside until it was time to come in for dinner. And then maybe you got to go back outside again, and then it was bath and bed. And we survived, and it was great. It was. And I said, I personally could survive without a phone, even though I'm used to it. But I have intentionally, one of the things that I've started to do is put my phone down more.
Yes, that's right.
Even when we sit down as a family, there's no cellular devices at the table, so there's no phone.
Excellent.
And unless it's an emergency, you call it. But most likely, you're going to get a phone call back after dinner.
Exactly.
So we're trying to teach the kids how to build up some of those positive habits. Because oftentimes when the power goes out, they panic. Oh my goodness, the power's out. What are we going to do? And I'm like, y'all need to have some resiliency, because we've been here a couple of different times, and every time it's been okay.
That's right.
really quiet in the house and you don't know what to do, and I tell you to go get those things filled with paper called books and
That's like
pop
filled
open
with paper. Exactly.
they have words and pictures on them, and some of them
That's
are
right.
really interesting. And they
That's
sit
right.
there and they look at me and go, "Ugh, mommy." I'm like, "Whatever. Go get a book. You will be fine. We will read."
Do they come back and say after if they enjoyed it or
They're
if they
like,
like
"This was
reading it?
torture." They go, "This is torture." My kids, we're working through that. I'm like, "This is terrible because I am an author and you guys are getting it." But we're gonna work through that.
They will. They will. Yeah.
They will. They will. I know they will. But I want to get back to our topic, resiliency. So tell me, what are some ways that we can boost our resiliency as individuals?
Again, you just keep just laying it all out there. You just said perfect. Like you just laid a good a super important good chunk of it right there. And that is like you said, boost your resilience.
Mhm.
Being intentional about it.
Yes.
Talking about your kids, what you're doing with your family, that's like there it is. If you to build in while all the electricity is on, things like putting the family puts the phone down at dinner time. Families put the phone down maybe one other time or on the week or whatever it is, do stuff together or whatever. That could be a hard habit to start, but little baby steps or play some Monopoly or whatever it is. So being intentional about it, and actually planning it, like actually putting it in your date book to the more it's just like you're saying, the more that we can unplug from technology and all that stuff and leaning on that, because as you know, like you said, as a writer yourself, of course, when you unplug from that, and then the creativity and the story and all the rest comes from in here, that is building resiliency. That is building, those, I can create, I can, so that whole process is a resilience builder right there. Well, another way to boost resilience, I was gonna ask you this question. I said before the show, I'm gonna ask you a question. So here's a question I want to ask you. And then can ask anybody this in terms of their own like experience, because every people lean toward different things. Like you said, you like gardening or whatever the case is. So my question to you is, when you have something that happens that you don't expect, and you may get a phone call or you hear sirens, or you don't know what it is yet, but it could be something tragic, knowing yourself and your history, and who you are, what is the first thing you do first thing you think?
I try to pray. That's my first thought. So there have been times where things have happened and you panic and you're, as you said, you hear sirens. You're like, oh my goodness, is that, oh, please, Lord, let that not be. And then inside of myself, I'll say, I need to pray. And I'll stop for a moment, or, continue to pray out loud while I'm trying to drive or whatever I'm doing. And then take a deep breath and say, God, I know you have this. I trust you. And typically, whatever it has been that I've worried about, typically God has always told me, you're going to be all right. It's okay. Don't worry. And so my husband had some health challenges. And I remember one day I got a phone call that they rushed him to the hospital. And I was doing one of these. I was doing a podcast before I was actually doing a podcast for someone else. And the lady that I was interviewing, she looked at my face. She said, what's wrong? She said, because your face has changed. And I told her. And she said, oh, you have to go. I said, no, let me finish. And I said, because it's going to be okay. God has told me it's going to be okay. So we finished and we prayed together. And she was Muslim. And so I was very appreciative. And I said my goodbyes. I got in my car. This is a true story. And I called one of my oldest and dearest friends. And we know this, whenever we call, I said, this is what's happening. And I need you to pray right now while I drive. She said, I got you, Kim. And she prayed while I drove and talked me till I got to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, everything was okay. I mean, there were still some things we had to worry about, but for the
Mm-hmm.
story part, he was okay. It is hard. Um, no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a natural human inclination to panic, to worry,
Mm-hmm.
to be fearful. However, when you have a relationship with the Father in heaven, you know that He will always be there for you. We were just
Mm-hmm.
talking on one of the radio shows that I do today. We were talking about that, about all the different things that are happening, all the
Mm-hmm.
death that has been happening. And even when I cringe and open up Facebook and see someone that I care about, who someone has posted a message, because that's the way, it's the town hall. That's what we,
Right, right.
the town square, excuse me. It's the town
Mm-hmm.
square. And so we proclaim from the town square of Facebook, such and such has died. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in the era when I was the kid, your phone rang and you
Yeah,
learned
right.
people knows. Now, I mean, your phone still rings, but a lot of times now it's on Facebook because people can't wait to tell everybody else that they know something has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just encourage everyone, you have to have a relationship with Father God. If you don't
Absolutely.
have that, you are going to struggle. And
Absolutely.
trust me, it is hard out here. It is hard.
Mm-hmm.
500,000 people, 500,000 people have lost their lives because of COVID.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It's
It
just
is.
mind-boggling. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah, absolutely. But I thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your own story, and I really appreciate it because that I asked you the question because most people will be able, if they take a quick moment to think about it, they'll pretty much be able to tell you what they usually do
Mm-hmm.
or where they lean towards, and that is like a key for their way of coping or resilience, to boost their own resilience. It's everything that you just did, building really building that spiritual life. And like the old folks used to say, in the times when things are not troubled, so that you have that with it, putting timber up, you have that built to step into in those times, continuing to work on that, continuing to build that relationship with your God is a person's God is that's a huge way, of course, to boost resilience. Also, and for people who, like, for someone else may say, I separate myself right away. I numb out with food, drink,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I numb out. Right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
if your way of coping or responding to those panic times is to do something that now that let me just say this, it's one thing to step away for a moment to collect yourself because everybody's different. If that's how you need to cope, to like take a moment and everything, and you even said that deep breath is a part of that prayer as well. It's a part of that process. Taking a moment to do that, everybody's different. I would say there's nothing wrong with that, but if in answering that same question, well, what do I do when I hear the sirens, or if it's something that may be harming you, that you immediately separate so that you're not dealing with reality, you're not addressing reality, you are going in, maybe getting a drink or lighting something or something that may be hurting you, harming you, and interfering with your ability in that moment to, deal with what you got to deal with. Then it's still an important question because it gives you an opportunity to rethink, maybe revisit how you respond at times of challenge. And we're all learning and growing. Are there things to tweak? Are there things to develop, things to change, habits to stop? All of those ongoing questions that we ask of ourselves, I encourage us to ask of ourselves, are also ways of boosting resilience. Look at
Mm-hmm.
what you naturally do, what you typically do. Lean on that if it's helpful, if it's healthy. So yeah, all those things help boost resilience. And something else I want to say too,
Mm-hmm.
that rabbit hole you talk about, that people talk about, it's real.
Yes,
It's
it
real.
is. Mhm.
But I mean, it is real, not a but it is real. But politics has for a long time been a dirty word for a lot of people anyway, even
Right.
before in the last 4 years. But um, in terms of balance and real, like, actual definitions of things, there are certainly some crooked folks, in politics.
Yes.
But there's also diversity in that. Politics is actually supposed to be about public service.
Yes.
They're public servants. And so I think also for people who've gotten, like you say, over news, disenchanted, totally understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, because there are still, there used to be more so, and we got to get back to that, but there are still those, they're there, who view their career in politics as a blessed opportunity to try and help the people.
Yes.
Such folks really do exist.
Yes, they
And
do.
John Lewis is one of our most recent who passed. But that's another thing, is do be aware. Don't get pulled into that rabbit hole. Politics, they're all crooked. Do some history reading. Learn about some of those who really saw it as a life of service, and who really tried to do some good, positive things. And that's the other thing, is to tie that, do some reading and stuff, and understand some of the things that we benefit from now is because of people who really fought hard on the political side. So I think that's something else that can be damaging and depressing and anger. It says also, anytime somebody says also, take another look. Is it really also, or are there some balances and some people we can appreciate and celebrate and stuff? And so that's something to think about as well.
Absolutely. So our time is going really quick. But I wanted to squeeze this question in. Can you talk about the connection between resiliency and spirituality? Because we sort of started to talk a little bit about it. And you talked about the importance of fasting and how you connect with the spirit to strengthen yourself in times, so that when things do happen, you have a reserve to tap into.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent question. Yes, absolutely. Research has actually shown that people who do have a strong spiritual practice in their life, and a strong belief in God and in worship and things like that, research has shown that they tend to be more resilient. That when they do, then they are hit with calamity and with trying times, that they have better outcomes in terms of lower anxiety. It doesn't mean that they may not get depressed or nervous or anything like that, but they tend, again, in terms of resiliency, they tend to bounce back quicker, because, as you said, it's not the kind of thing that, I only visit in times of, strife, but because it is a practice, meaning it's something you try to incorporate in your life daily. It's a part of your daily existence that you work on. There is a greater, you have better outcomes, you do better, you bounce back better. And also you have a better understanding oftentimes of one of the things that adds a lot of depression and anxiety is the feeling of hopelessness due to helplessness. And of course, so much of the COVID outcomes have contributed to that, that whole feeling. When you understand that there are things greater than you at work that you can tap into, it helps to take away some of the helplessness. Prayer, we say prayer changes things. There's research on that also. And then the fasting as well. Fasting, is in the Bible. Jesus fasted and all that, and as do other folks outside of Christianity. It really does. It really strengthens resilience, because it helps you to hone the focus on what God is saying for you and for your life during a period of time of when you take away the food and the drink. It gives you a chance to center your mind and center your thought and your breath, and put you in a mindset of a meditative mindset, so that when the electricity goes out or when things are taken away, you have, again, practice makes perfect. You have a built-in kind of practice of, if I do without, what the practice of fasting has taught me is I can come out of it. I have other inner strengths to lean on. I have a God who will sustain me. Fasting is something that people in my family have done for years, as have other people, spiritual people and Christians, etc. And you do, it helps you to declutter, and center more so on what's really important. So those are some of the things that all build resilience and take away the idea that I have to have certain material things in the world in order to be a truly strong yet centered person. And having that is a wonderful anchor to lean on when the world throws things at us.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Dr. Angela Celeste May. Now, so you have a book called Freedom.
Yes.
Do you have a selection that would be appropriate to read for us? Do you want to talk about the book?
Yes, thank you for asking. Actually, I do. The book is called Freedom. What is the experience of living without negative self-imposed limitations? Excuse me. And it really is, it's a book about resilience. It's a book about how to it's got themes in it from people I interviewed who have in different ways, for different challenges, found some common themes about how they were able to get unstuck, bounce back, or be resilient when they were perhaps stuck or beat down in some ways, be it in self-esteem or career or whatever the case. So chapter 5 of this was my master's thesis. So it's written as a research project, but it's easy reading. It's easy to read. And chapter 5 talks about the method that I use to do the research and the procedure and stuff. And there, I'm going to read a couple of lines at the very beginning of chapter 5.
Okay.
And it's talking about the type of research that was used, the method, which is humanistic. So the quote is, I'm quoting from Kelly from 1969 as an old quote. It says, "This is crucial," because this is humanistic psychology. It's a school of thought of psychology. This is crucial. Humanistic psychology needs a technology through which to express its human intentions. End quote. So that was Kelly. And then what I stated after that is, the intentions of the humanistic psychologist are humane indeed. She or he endeavors to ease the pain of existence by delving into the source of it and trying to soothe it with the balm of understanding. So there's a lot in that. So I wanted to read that today because, first of all, I was a young doctor. I was blessed to be my doctor by age 30. So I wrote, this was my master's thesis. So I wrote this when I was in my late 20s. And so even back then, one thing I always do is I almost never write he or she. I always write she or he. It's good to hear she first. But beyond that, this particular quote, the part that what I had written, to ease the pain of existence by delving into the source. That is what fasting helps you do. That's what prayer helps you do. That's what turning off social media helps you do. That's what, getting back in touch with, in order to ease the pain of all of this loss, to ease, what's going on, to ease some of those, the anxiety, depression, whatever it is. It's important to develop an ongoing practice of delving into sources of it and soothing the balm with understanding. The more I understand about why it's going on, even if I don't understand all of it, there's the more you connect to a higher power, and you know that I may not understand all of it, but God has reasons for some of it. We've learned a lot because it's a painful lesson, but we've learned some things because of the loss. If nothing else, then to appreciate life more. And ourselves and each other. So that idea of delving into our inner, to the thing that is causing the pain, to try to gain more understanding, is a balm, a soothing cream, ointment, if you will, to helping us step away and ease some of that anxiety, that depression, and understand that it all works together for reasons, even if we don't know what they are yet.
Absolutely. All right. So where can we find your book?
We can find my book a couple places. One is Ex Libris. They are the publishers of the book. So that's XLIBRIS. So at Ex Libris, they can find the book by title and by my name. It is also on Amazon as well. So they can find it at those two those 2 locations.
And talk to us about your music.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking. Well, I'm a professional musician, vocalist, and I play multiple instruments. Also, I have a production company. At the moment, I am go to my YouTube channel, Angela Celeste May. You can see my music videos, etc. I also do vocal quick tips. I do various series, mainly around musical things. So project-wise, I have 2 CDs that can be both found on iTunes. One is the first album was No Limits, and the second album is Reintroducing the Lady. So you can find both of those on iTunes. You can also find them at Reverb Nation under Angela Celeste May. And I believe they're on Amazon too. You can find both of those albums at Amazon. Currently, I I'm starting working on producing a new project under my company. And this particular project is for another artist. So I'm beginning to work on that. I'm very excited about a project that he's doing. So that's what I'm doing at this moment. And as the year unfolds, I may be doing some more recording myself this year and more performing. But at the moment, that's what I'm working on starting at this moment. But yes, check me out. Google me. Come to my channel. I'd love to see you.
And tell us about the firm that you and your sister run.
Oh yes, my sister is a licensed counselor, Michelle Ann May, and of course I'm a psychologist. So our company is A.M. May and Associates Incorporated, and we do consulting, and we do personal and professional coaching. We run courses as well, all under our banner. You can go to our website, amassociates.com, and and find out about the stuff that we're doing. You also can set up, you'll see on our website where you can set up discovery calls if you want to chat with either of us about personal coaching, professional coaching. Like I said, I do consulting as well for businesses and nonprofit, profit, all that. I do diversity work as well. That's part of my consulting. Mm-hmm. So that you can reach us there too.
And okay, correct me if I'm wrong. You have a Black Experience project that's going. And then you had another coaching portal project that you were working on that you were looking for people to join.
You might be talking, well, thank you for asking. Yes, I'm finishing up right now a Black Experience course that I'm teaching under my company with my sister. And it was a 4-week course throughout February. So, ending up, the Black History Month. I don't know if you can see my button, Black Lives Matter, of course. And my shout her out, Nina Simone.
Yeah.
But the Black Experience course, we meet once a week, via Zoom. And my course is specifically looking at aspects of the Black experience that we don't typically talk about and drawing some of that out. So it's been a wonderful experience. I may be offering that again at some point in the future, but I'll continue to develop courses and things like that. Now, the other one that you might be referring to, if you look at our company site, is the one Michelle is doing, my sister.
Yeah.
She is, and that's the other one, yep. She is doing a course right now on first-time recording artists. If you have a project and you want to roll out your first project, so she's doing an excellent course in some of the key things that you need to know. And it also is a 4-week course, taking you from beginning of project to completion. So thank you for asking. Yes, you can find both of us not only at our website, but also on Facebook, our Facebook page, and for AMA and Associates. And we both being in the social sciences area, as well as we're both professional musicians, music educators. We have a private Facebook group for creative professionals. Mm-hmm. So if you are a creative professional, and that means everything from if you're a baker, chef, dancer, spoken word artist, whatever it may be, feel free to come on over and join our private Facebook group for creative professionals on for AMA and Associates and Facebook. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And what's your email address?
The email address is for music folks, if you're interested in, if you want to contact me, because I do teach private voice and piano lessons, and I also coach fellow professionals as well. You can contact me at Celeste, which is CELESTE and then MUS, which is short for music, and the number 1. So Celeste MUS, the number 1 at AOL.com. You can contact me there. And then you can also contact me at drangela@gmail.com for stuff for the consulting and the psychology side of and any diversity, any of that kind of stuff. Personal coaching, feel free to contact me there.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Dr. Angela Celeste May.
Thank
We
you.
always learn so much when you come on our show. We so appreciate
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me back. I always enjoy coming back and having these wonderful, rich discussions with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. We're trying to help people, and you are one of our favorites who always.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank
we
you.
look forward to seeing you next month with another exciting topic.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. I hope you'll check out our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.